Okay, this afternoon in the 5 series, we're going to look at 5 jazz funk albums, essential jazz funk albums. It was a pretty easy pull because 3 of the albums are iconic classic jazz funk albums. One's an album by the most iconic jazz funk artist, and the other one is just a personal fave. But anyway, let's get into it. Donald Byrd, Places and Spaces, an essential album in the jazz funk realm. It's spoken highly of, and rightfully so. It's been sampled a number of times, has classic tracks for the dance floor. It's just one of those albums that comes up. It's just a jazz funk classic album by Donald Byrd, who's a legendary jazz artist in his own right. Next up, Roy Ayers. Now Roy Ayers, come on, legend of legends is this man, Roy Ayers. He's still around, he's still alive, and we're grateful for him. You could go through a number of Roy Ayers albums. They're pretty much all classic. This is probably my favorite album, which is why I pulled it. But he's let's just call him what it is. He's the king of jazz funk. He's the guy, and he's just an immense figure in the scene and the music as a whole. Cannot preach that enough. Roy Ayers, get into it, get involved. Next up is Lonnie Liston Smith, Expansions, a very famous album, kind of built around a very famous record, right? Expansions, the title track, is the most iconic jazz funk track of all time. It dips into jazz fusion, which is a whole other thing. I'll do another video about jazz fusion, but it is the iconic jazz funk track of all time, Expansions, and the album holds up really well around it. All right, so the album is a dope album. All Lonnie Liston Smith's records are really good, are really dope and worthwhile, but this is famous based upon the title track, which is a legendary track. I'm going to use legend a lot in this vid. Johnny Hammond, Gears. Yeah, it ranks with that Donald Byrd, Places and Spaces for highly revered jazz funk albums. It just bangs. It's just got, I think it's 6 tracks, but it's just an essential album to have. Cannot preach it enough. Johnny Hammond, Gears, jazz funk, you need to get into it. And this is a personal favourite of mine, doesn't get enough love. Herb Geller was a jazz saxophonist, and for some reason he made this album on Atlantic, and it is a sheer fire jazz funk record. I don't know him for much else, and the cover doesn't really set it. It's called Rhyme and Reason, but it's a personal favourite of mine that I recommend. Jazz funk, let's get into it.